Hey dreamers, welcome to another video on Arizona Dreams. Today I want to talk to you about the top 10 reasons why you may hate Arizona. Some of these have come from just comments we've gotten on our channel or just from maybe my own experience that I had the first time around with Arizona. So number one is you landed in the wrong place. If you ended up in like the hood or a rough part of town or just a part of Phoenix that doesn't look very visually appealing, that can play a big role in how you feel about living here. I know when we moved to a suburb of Houston, we had an experience where we didn't know we were in the hood because our realtor was like, oh, this is a great place. We went there, everything looked great until we moved in, and then we realized this is not the greatest part of town. Just an overall bad experience and a bad first impression for us, and we never could recover from that. And I think a lot of people have that experience here. Because when people are saying Phoenix is dirty and ugly and full of unsavory things, yeah, I know that's out there, but that's not something that I see every day. Maybe they do see that, and that's what they think all of Phoenix is like. Obviously, all of Phoenix is not like that. You really have to be careful with the place that you choose. Because I know that in these apartment complexes, they'll make their apartments look pretty. They'll throw up some pictures with palm trees, and you're thinking from afar, oh, this is gonna be a good place to live. But you don't know that the surrounding areas are kind of crappy. So you just gotta be careful. It's best if you can come visit here first and do, research into the area you're moving into. But I'm aware that sometimes you just aren't aware of it until you actually start living there. Reason number two that you may hate living in Arizona is you're homesick. That is a very common thing to happen. You're homesick, you're lonely, you don't have any friends, you're in a new surrounding, nothing is familiar to you, and that can really play a role in how you feel about a place that really has nothing to do with the place. It's just how you're feeling and how you're taking to your new surroundings. And when you really get homesick, nothing is gonna be good enough. Nothing is gonna be right for you here. You're gonna start picking apart the place, finding fault in everything. You're gonna focus on the negatives and just not even try to find the positives. We were there, our first go round in Arizona. I started getting homesick, and I dwelled on the hot summers and the fact that my kids couldn't go outside and play during the summer. Just a lot of things that was negative. And I did not try to fix any of it. I didn't try to make it better, because at that point, when you get to the point where you're so homesick that you just want to go back, there's nothing that's probably going to fix that. And it took us moving away and realizing the mistake that we made to make me say, okay, we're here now for the long run. What can I do to help me out of the funk of the negatives? Because summer is a big negative for me. So instead of just complaining about it, we took a lot of weekend trips up north where we could just be outside and it's cooler. I had to realize that no place is going to be perfect with weather. So yeah, our kids are spending a lot of time in the house in the summer here, but they were doing the same thing when we lived in Ohio and Michigan during the winter. When you get here and you're feeling that homesickness, some people just never get out of that funk. Number three, you over-idealize where you moved from. And I've seen other people that are just talking so glowingly about the place that they left. And it just kind of makes you think, okay, so why did you move if it was so perfect? And I did the same thing. When we were here the first time, it was like, oh, I missed the Four Seasons, and I missed the traffic was not as bad, and it just was, so many things that I was like making where we left into something it really wasn't. We didn't have 4 seasons. We had a whole lot of winter, a little bit of spring. Spring was rainy, a little bit of fall. Sometimes winter took over fall before it was over with. So it wasn't this idyllic place that I was making it into. The traffic wasn't as bad, and it was a small town feel because everybody was leaving. People grow up and they didn't want to stick around because it wasn't an inviting place. Our population was dwindling. So you have to take a step back sometimes and think, why did I move in the first place? If it was that great, why didn't I stay? Now, sometimes if you come from a place that does have the things that you want, but you just can't afford it, well, that's different. But a lot of people aren't moving from those places. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. And sometimes what you're thinking about the place that you used to live is not really as accurate as it is. Number 4, you have overhyped Arizona in your own head. It's kind of like that vacation syndrome where you come here and maybe you visited for 5 days or 2 weeks or whatever it is, and you're feeling good, you're off from work, and all the things that normally would bother you if you lived here full time aren't going to really probably bother you when you're just visiting. The heat may not bother you on a fun vacation after 5 or 6 days, but after 5 or 6 months, it may have a different annoyance to you when you get on the freeways and you're like, oh, traffic isn't that bad. I don't know what the fuss is about. Did you get on the freeway when everybody's off work? Because when you're on vacation, you don't have to wait until 5 o'clock or get out at 7 o'clock in the morning to do the things you want to do. Number 5, you just aren't made for the heat. Everybody cannot handle months of hot weather. Some people have bigger tolerances than others. The heat hits people differently. I know for me, it was a really rough adjustment. Again, going back to the first time that we lived here, I was not just expecting the wind to hurt. I did not know how sensitive I was to the sun because I didn't get this kind of sun back in the Midwest. And when it was sunny, it just wasn't the intensity that I get here. So I would find myself just uncomfortable even in like the low 80s because the sun was just really bothering my skin. Those are things you aren't necessarily going to be able to know or appreciate until you're living here for the long term. So the heat might be something that you just can't get used to and you just end up hating. Number 6, you may have come here and just had really bad experiences early on. Racism, maybe you got robbed, just some bad experience that made you kind of think that the whole place is that. I think people all have different experiences. The whole state of Arizona is not full of crime. There are parts of Phoenix that have high crime, but there's plenty of safe areas of Phoenix and there are plenty of safe suburbs. So I think we just take our isolated and our personal experiences and you just paint the whole state as the bad thing that we experienced. You can go to any place, any city, any state and have those experiences. That is that person that you dealt with, that person that was rude to you. Some people say Phoenix is full of rude people. There's plenty of nice people that I've come across. I just think it's really easy to generalize. There's no way that you could have had extensive dealings with everybody in the Phoenix Valley, in every suburb, in every neighborhood enough to really be able to honestly say that what you experienced is indicative of the entire state or the entire Phoenix Valley. But it is easy for those bad things to tarnish your perception of the area. Number 7, you hoped that moving here or just moving in general would solve all your problems. Maybe you're going through a divorce or a tough time or whatever. You're feeling some depression or just in a funk in life, and you felt like moving was going to be the answer. And then you get here and you realize that you took the mental baggage from all the things you experienced back home into a new place and nothing has changed. So you just have to be careful that you don't expect the move to be a miracle worker and to just solve all your problems, because it won't. And sometimes you get new problems that you didn't have before. Number 7, you're a native. Yeah, I know I'm probably gonna get it for this one, but I have never seen a person hate Arizona more than a native who is just over it. And I call that hometown syndrome. I think we all, when we get sick of a place, go through that. There are plenty of natives that love Arizona. I'm just saying the worst comments tend to come from the people who have lived here all their lives. I went through that hometown syndrome too, like growing up in Ohio. And you have a longer time. Maybe this is what it is, because you have a longer time to just hate whatever it is that is probably the most negative thing about that state. I mean, you've got maybe decades of time to build up this anger and resentment from it. But what I have noticed is that people who appreciate Arizona the most, and the comments that we get, whether it's just on our channel or on other pages related to Arizona, it's a lot of people who didn't grow up here. Because I've seen some of the natives that don't like it here, and they're like, I can't wait to get out of here and go to some place that has 4 seasons. They don't have that sense of I escaped hell that people who dealt with -5 degrees for days on end, or having to dig yourself out of snow. People who understand the misery of just gray skies for months on end and how very depressing that can be. I think transplants are just so happy to have gotten out of that. We just have a higher tolerance for the negative parts that we have to deal with and experience. I know natives, don't get on my case. I know you're probably already typing at the computer really long things about how you're right to hate Arizona. I'm not taking that away from you. If you hate Arizona, that's fine. I'm just saying some of the people that hate Arizona are often natives who just don't know what it's like to experience a true winter. Number 9, you moved here and you didn't visit first. Now, sometimes I've heard of this happening, and some people have been very successful. They have said, I never even came here before I moved, and it's been the best experience of my life. It's a gamble. It is a really big gamble to move somewhere that you don't know anything about outside of pictures or research online. It's just hard to get a feel for an area if you've never seen it. Now, I understand sometimes there are circumstances that prevent that, so I'm not going to judge anybody for that, but you may find out that when you get here, it's not what you thought it was. Number 10, Arizona is not for everybody. It just isn't. No, there's no state that everybody is going to love. That just is how it is. Some people just don't have that feeling about Arizona that makes them want to stay, and they just say, this is not the place for me. Sometimes you make mistakes when you move. We've made mistakes on multiple occasions moving places, and it's okay to admit that and sometimes just move out and try somewhere else. We did this, and we made the whole effort of moving back home to the Midwest from Arizona just to realize we missed it and come back. That was embarrassing. But you know what? We decided we're not staying somewhere we're not happy just because we're afraid of what people will think of us. Yeah, maybe you made a big deal about moving to Arizona and starting your life over in the desert. You get here and you hate it, and it's okay. I am never going to promise you at home that I'm 100% positive that you will love Arizona, that you will have the same feelings about Arizona that we do, because everybody's different. Some people getting sick of the desert scenery. Some people just realize that a bigger city isn't for them. They want a smaller town. Some people just, like I said, they hate the heat. At least if you do find out you don't like it, you came, you tried, you realized, it wasn't for you. So let me know, how is it going for you? Have you had any experience with any of these issues? Do you fear that you might when you get here? If you're one of those people that truly, really hate Arizona with a passion, and you're gonna write novel-length comments and all of these really life-sucking things, please don't. I mean, we get enough of those, and I'm just looking for a thoughtful discussion about any of the struggles you might have faced, or if you just came here and realized that you love it. I want to hear that too. I hope you enjoyed that video. Stay tuned for the next one, and see you next time.
Perfect.